So now, immediately, the veterinary panel consisting of Dr. Myron Costa, Dr. Ashutosh Joshi, Dr. Shiela Rao, and Dr. Lakshmi Srinivasan, they'll be talking about the animal rights and welfare from the veterinarian's perspective. Dr. Ashutosh Joshi is a member of the Uttarakhand Animal Welfare Board. He's a nodal officer for the Animal Welfare Department of Animal Husbandry, Government of Uttarakhand. He's also the member secretary of the Uttarakhand State ABC Monitoring Committee, and he's also the general secretary of the Uttarakhand State Veterinary Services Association. He regularly conducts police training workshops on animal welfare laws for the police and at the State Police Academy at Narendra Nagar, Haridwar. Then Dr. Lakshmi Srinivasan, she was one of the first veterinarians responsible for implementing the ABC program through Abhay, PFA and the Blue Cross of Hyderabad. She has performed over 10,000 surgeries on different animals. She's the first lady and South Indian clinician to be awarded the PACE, an All India award given for the maximum contribution by a private practitioner to the veterinary profession. Lakshmi ji has attended several symposia and seminars both in India and abroad to keep abreast with the current trends and therapies on various subjects like dermatology, oncology, vaccination guidelines, and immunology. Dr. Myron Costa. He's a veterinarian with Animal Shelter Agonda, and apart from dealing with all the dogs, cats, and other animals, he's also worked with horses. And Dr. Shiela Rao is a veterinarian and trustee of CUPA, which is the Compassion Unlimited Plus Action, an NGO based in Bangalore that she co-founded to take animal welfare to the next level. Over the years, she and her colleagues have rescued thousands of animals from extreme abuse and abandonment and have been instrumental in advocating the adoption of Indian dogs over buying breeds. So today's panel, they are going to give a veterinary perspective of celebrating the contribution and the role of veterinarians in the animal welfare movement and talking about their challenges. Yeah, over to you.
So for 24 hours a day, 30 days in a month, 365 days in a year. But it is only veterinarian in the government system who gets bread and butter for serving the animals. He may serve just 10 or 12 hours a day. He may serve just 20 or 25 days in a month. He may serve just 250 or 280 days in a year. But yes, he is the only person in the government machinery who is going to give echo to your voice. So that way, I like to request all the guys working in the field of animal welfare that please, we have to accept the reality. The reality is that India is the second most densely populated country in the world. Worst case scenario is in Bangladesh, where we have around 980 people per square kilometer. And second worst condition is in our country, that is around 370 people per square kilometer. Of course, it is obvious that if per square kilometer human density is more, there will be more exploitation of the resources, more exploitation of the nature, more exploitation of the animals. Under the circumstances, the duties, the job of you guys become more difficult. But we have to be realistic. Since the governments are elected by the majority, and they have to go with the majority. In that case, it is more difficult for you to fight your case. So I'll just request that please try to use the veterinarians in this field, because police, law and order is a state subject. It is controlled by the state governments. And whenever you book any case against the cruelty of animals, it is the veterinarian who is going to give you the technical evidence under Section 30D of the Veterinary Council Act and under the Section 45 of the Evidence Act 1872. So that way, the role of veterinarian is very, very important. So I'll just request you guys, if you really love your profession, you please try to have very good rapport with the veterinarians, maybe private practitioners, maybe government sector in the system. Particularly, we have got one new Case Property Animals Rule 2017 framed under the PC Act, recently framed in last year. Under that rule, the role of veterinarian is very, very important dealing with the case property. I'll now hand over the mic to ma'am Lakshmi.
Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you all for having us here. Because as such, for us veterinarians, we are under their oath. In our veterinary oath itself, we have to take care of animal welfare. That's part of our oath. So I would say every veterinarian is, by default, an animal welfare person. The contention today, I need to bring about is about animal welfare workers practice and private practice veterinarians, veterinarians in private practice. The issues that we face as such. I don't know why that there is this huge great divide despite the fact that all of us are really on the same side. We are on the same side of the animal. But there's this huge divide between animal welfare people and veterinarians. They're suspicious of each other and they demand or services from each other. The thing what happens with private practitioners usually is animal welfare people, people come rescue a dog, animal, bring it in into a private practice, and they expect, because it's a veterinarian, to be treating it for free. Why should a veterinarian who's a professional be treating animals for free? It costs a private practitioner money, time, effort, and there's demands made by the, the animal welfare worker. You have to treat it right now, keep everything aside. It is your moral duty to treat it and treat it for free. And many times they leave the animal in the clinic, not thinking about the future. They think, I'm saying I'm sorry, because I'm also part of the animal welfare, movement. But when it comes to this, it becomes a you and me kind of situation. It becomes like, people come in saying, think that they have done a great big job by rescuing. Of course, it's wonderful. You do rescue, you have put in your time, effort, money to bring in an animal into a private clinic. But to expect, a private veterinarian to, just because he's a veterinarian, to give everything service and everything for free, and leave the animal in the shelter, go away without even thinking what the future of the animal is. And sometimes, veterinarians are blamed. If the animal dies, then, we have become blamed as killers. We are also, animal welfare people doubt our integrity and our capability, when this happens. They don't think that, and they also bring it in a clinic, they don't think about any of the diseases, distemper, parvo, any of the tick-borne diseases that the particular animal, of course, pet dogs do also have them, say. But the thing is, mostly, these are the things, they don't look at transmission part of things, they just come in, dump the animals into the clinic, So this is something that, starts jarring, the private practice people. I'm talking from the perspective, and this, I suppose, the discussion here is about, veterinarians and the animal activists situation. And the other thing is that, we many times feel there's a whole government setup with veterinarians, with medicines in every city and every district level veterinary hospitals are there. So why are we not making government veterinarians, who are practitioners there in the clinics, accountable for what they're doing? Why cannot we avail the free services that is offered by the government? We are taxpayers. We are paying for the salaries. We are paying for the medicines that the government is offering in those clinics. Why go to a private practitioner and expect, they come and tell me, doctor, come on, the spine is broken, do spinal surgery on the dog. This is the kind of expectation people have, that they don't think what's going to happen to this puppy or this animal. Is it going to survive, or what's the cost incurred, or finally, is this puppy or dog going to be adopted? What's the future of the pet? This is not put into thought. No one wants to use the government machinery, because they don't trust them. They want a private practitioner always to use, thing. So this sort of thing, I suppose, this should end, because we're, after all, everything is a thankless job. After all, animals, see, in all of these discussions the past 2 days, I'm saying, it's not a man and animal. it's animal and animal, the human animal and the other animals. That's what we are. That's where veterinarians come. This is our perspective. This is where veterinarians, animal feel pain too, yes. We are all animals, we will feel the pain. That's how we are all part of this animal, we are all animals in the same thing. It's a thankless job. So I think we should break these divides and be part of the same, army to fight for everyone's causes. Yeah. What do you say? Yeah, here is pairing. I think the discussion was about the veterinarian faces, challenges that are being faced. Yeah.
The challenges that a veterinarian faces as a private veterinarian. And here I would say being a veterinarian and having an animal welfare organization. So I can see both sides of the picture, because CUPA does have its own clinic where we do charge people when they bring their animals in. But this kind of a situation happens all the time with us as well. In our case, we are a little luckier because we do have a separate shelter meant only for stray animals. So very often we are able to send our animals there. But even then, the shelters also get full up. And the situation is, I think that the veterinarians have to understand that they are bringing animals to you because they appreciate you and what you do for them. And that is the reason why they would come to a private vet rather than go to a government vet. So there really isn't that much of a divide or kind of confrontation between the two. It is just the way that individual situations are sort of taken up and maybe sometimes blown out of proportion, maybe sometimes tempers, flare up and things like that. But the fact is, when we rescue an animal, as someone who, has found this dog on the road and takes it to the nearest clinic and says, you have to do something. And at the end of the day, what does the rescuer do? Where does he take the animal? Or he or she, when she finds this animal. The only place you can think of is a veterinary clinic. And if it happens to be a private clinic, and you just, demand that the animal has to be treated. So there is a fine line which needs to be drawn in each case, that what do you do? Like, just take a case of distemper, where we were very badly targeted just a few months ago, because an animal which was suffering from distemper was, euthanized, when people said, but then it could have been saved. But then when you save an animal which has distemper and you set it back on the roads, then it is, the virus is being disseminated for another 3, 4, 5 months. And then you are infecting other animals on the street. So that moral dilemma is something that neither a vet nor a welfarist is able to draw a proper conclusion to, You are damned if you do and damned if you don't. So I think the problem here is not that veterinarians are not appreciated or people make unnatural demands from them. It is just that we have to learn to dialogue, like Dr. Joshi said, and make it a situation where there is a positive outcome for both. Like doctor was saying, he is part of the State Animal Welfare Board. He has to liaise between the government doctors and the government themselves and the NGOs, and it is only dialogue which can create a positive atmosphere and, doesn't have people sort of blaming each other. And I know with social media now how much of bad blood happens in any situation. When tempers run high, emotions are also sort of, out of proportion. So at the end of the day, it is dialogue, and it is the fact that rescuer comes to a private vet only because he knows that you can do something for the animal. And that is something what the veterinarian should understand and not think, that you're being sort of targeted or called names and things like that.
Good afternoon, everyone. So as Dr. Lakshmi had said about veterinarians have an oath to take care of all the animals. Unfortunately, we don't have many veterinarians who stick into the in the NGOs for work. They come, soon after graduation, they join the NGOs to learn the trade, and then they quit in a few months or in a year. I don't think that's because of the money, but it's more because there's not enough interaction between the manager or the animal welfare person in the shelter and the veterinarian. There's a lot of pressure put on the shelter manager as well, from the crowd, with funds, with space, with time, but all the pressure is transferred onto the veterinarians. For example, I work in a few NGOs, and one of them, I'm always under pressure to empty the cages because all the people in the locality, they keep dumping dogs onto the shelter. I know we can't manage it, but then every patient requires, it needs time to get better. So, yeah, we are unable to cope with that, and hence you have a lot of veterinarians who leave the shelter after maybe a year or so.
Doctor, what about the, the basic thing is, the thing is, I am with the PFA also. I'm the vice president of PFA. I run a private clinic, and being I'm both sides of the coin here. As Dr. Shiela is also here, part of the veterinary thing. I'm also part. Me and my husband run and look after our shelter. We train all our veterinarians. We train our para-veterinarians. We don't have that. The thing that we find also, among for us that, most of the veterinarians, we come in and learn. And I know where we're coming from. We hardly get an opportunity to learn, in our colleges. And that's something, again, that animal welfare people, because, for example, people are scared to use ethically sourced cadavers for, learning. It's very important for veterinarians to learn. And so veterinarians end up coming to the shelter as a learning experience. And many times we have wanted, from the other side of the veterinarian, and for other side, I'm, talking from the shelter point of view, we have talked about the fact that, they should come and at least stay 2 years or so to contribute to what they've learned. And, I understand the fact that, about veterinarians and animal welfare people, the turf is, is people, the line is not drawn, yes. And therefore, there's a lot of, conflict that happens. Dr. Shiela would like to comment upon this part of things.
About the conflict?
About the conflict between veterinarians and coming to learn, and going
Yeah.
away, and animal welfare people and the conflict.
Yeah, in CUPA we do have a lot of that because the sheer number of animals that keep coming in. Any vet who comes in there, will become an expert within 6 months. It's just the sheer number of cases that, and different kinds of cases that we get. So a lot of vets, in fact, most of the top private vets in Bangalore, at least 6, 7 of them, have all learnt in CUPA. So, it's not that we grudge any of that. It's good that they have their own veterinary clinics now, and they do, we are able to refer animals to them, we are able to take animals to them if, our own clinic is far away and the animal is close to one of their clinics. Yes, they do give us a very good discount for treating animals. Like you said, they really can't treat them for free. And we do understand the need for vets to come and work in shelters and then go on to their, they take it like a gap year between your BVSC and your MVSC. They do a stint in an NGO. But I think that's fine, as long as they're very clear and they tell us their intentions, that we are here just for these 6 months. I'm expecting a government job. Fine. It's good for us. It's good for them. We get their services, and they also get to train. And we hope that the animal welfare aspect, which otherwise is very difficult to, if you go straight into a private clinic, because once you do that, then there is a little bit of, why should I do this? There's no money in it. Why should I try and save this animal? What is the future? So, whereas in an animal welfare organization, there may not be a future if you look at it from a private vet's point of view. But there is a future in the shelter. You keep him in the shelter, keep the animal in the shelter, and maybe even if it's a year down the line, you can have her adopted, or there will be some person who comes and says, I know she has only 3 legs, but I'll take her. Or I know that, it has a chronic skin problem, but I'll manage it. So it is possible for a shelter to do that and a shelter vet to do that, but not for a private practitioner. That is understandable. So I think it is win-win for both. If vet comes to your shelter and says, I'm leaving in 6 months, fine, you do that. But give us your best in those 6 months. I don't think anyone...
In that case, the NGOs are only left to train all the vets. There's no one with sufficient, the best thing will be to have a simultaneous private practice on the side, at the same time work at the different NGOs, so you'll be doing the best of both.
No, I don't think so. The people will... You're doing that. Yeah.
It's not about the funds. It's about the pressure that the shelter puts on.
The shelter puts on, yeah. There is that, yes. But then at CUPA, we do try to make it a situation where vets have their specific hours. You don't expect them to work, for 10, 12 hours just because the situation demands it. And we also try, and of course we can't give as much as, they won't earn as much as a private vet, but we try and keep up as much as we can, a veterinarian salary, and that part of it we try and look after. And the shelter manager is the one person who will be able to help in this, to keep the distance between the public and the veterinarian. It's very important that there is, that the public doesn't have full access to the veterinarian right in the beginning. You have to go through the reception, you have to go meet the manager, and only later then you go and meet the vet if there is really need to. You have to have faith that the vet will be doing his best for the animal.
Doctor, I think you are basically talking in the line that we have to accept the reality that veterinary profession in our country is passing through a phase of transition. The reality is that we don't have a full-fledged ministry at the level of Government of India. And that is the reason that plenty of animal matters are being handled by different ministries at the level of Government of India and at the level of state government. So far as animal welfare is concerned, it is being taken care by the Forest Ministry. So far as wildlife animal welfare is concerned, it is being taken care by the Forest Ministry. In the state government also, wildlife is completely being taken care by the Forest Ministry. So far as treatment of the animals is concerned, that is being taken care by the Agriculture Ministry at the level of Government of India and Animal Husbandry Ministry at the level of state government. So far as the management of the sheep and goat is concerned, that is being taken care by the Textile Ministry of Government of India. So far as export are concerned, that is being taken care by the Commerce Ministry. So far as the cooperatives are concerned, where the livelihood generation and the employment of the farmers is concerned, that is being taken care by the Cooperative Ministry and Rural Development Ministry and the Urban Development Ministry. So far as the management of the stray dogs and stray cattle in the city area, that is being taken care by the urban local bodies or the Urban Development Ministries. So we don't have a holistic policy in the government machinery. That we have to accept. And we have to accept this thing, that none of the veterinary colleges in our country has adopted this ABC program. And experimental surgery on the animals has been banned now. So the doctors who are coming out from the veterinary colleges, they don't have the idea of the practical handling of the animals, practical surgeries, so ABC surgery, many of other things. So that is a reality we have to accept. And the reality is that of course we require plenty of veterinary doctors to manage the wildlife. We require plenty of animals to manage the stray dogs or stray cattle in the urban areas. Plenty of doctors to manage the stray cattle problem, Kanji House Gaushala shelters in the Jilla Panchayats. But thing is that we don't have a post of even a single veterinary doctors in most of the Jilla Panchayats or the urban local bodies or the forest department. So we are already pushing for it. We have got 5 full-time veterinary doctors appointed in Uttarakhand in the forest department, and we are creating 25 more posts so that they can give better justice to wildlife, because veterinary is a very wild subject. A veterinary doctor is supposed to address all the creatures, maybe a wildlife. Wildlife, again, there is great variety. There's elephants are there, rhinos are there, leopards are there, tigers are there, then marine animals are there. So there is a large variety. So we feel that specialist wildlife veterinarians should be there, specialist aqua veterinarians should be there, so that they can give their services as per the demand of the department. Similarly, we are pushing that we should get at least 25 veterinary doctors in the urban development department in the various urban local bodies who can give services like that. And since we don't have the proper infrastructure of the veterinarians in the various departments, that's why the role of the NGOs becomes more difficult. That's why the role of the private clinician that becomes more difficult. Dr. Lakshmi was talking that why government doctors, they don't take care of the animals, why those animals are coming in to the private clinician. Okay, you are very correct. Since the government that holds the ownership of the ecosystem, and the stray dogs and stray cattle are the part of the urban ecosystem. And that is the responsibility of the local bodies, that means local government and the state government and the central government. But the bitter fact is that despite of 74th constitutional amendment brought in 1992 in our country, still there is not a single scheme designed by the Urban Development Department, Urban Development Ministry, Government of India for the management of stray cattle. If we go for the mandate of Urban Development Ministry of Government of India, as per the 74th Constitutional Amendment, there are 18 points on which UD department is going to work. On point number 14, there is a mandate to run a cattle Gaushala shelter, Kanji house, and schemes under Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act. But that things is not happening. Similarly, the 73rd Constitutional Amendment was brought by the Panchayat Raj Ministry of Government of India. But there is not even a single scheme to address those issues. So what I say, then pressure comes to AWI. AWI is basically working in the Forest Ministry. Forest Ministry doesn't have this mandate to address these issues. The thing is that definitely there is gap in the government machinery itself, who are the policy makers. And we NGOs, we have got, you are making a point that there should be a platform for the discussion and having interaction with the machinery. Definitely there has to be. We have got plenty of statutory bodies, Animal Welfare Board of India, CPCSCA, CZA, NTCA, Wildlife Crime Control Bureau at the level of Government of India. Then we have got similar sort of bodies at state level also. We have got State Animal Welfare Board, we have got State Wildlife Advisory Board, we have got State Gau Seva Ayog. So we have got 50% NGOs, 50% government officers to interact together. Similarly, we have got the statutory bodies at the district level, that is district SPCA, where around 30, 40, 50% NGOs will be there, and all the concerned department state level officers will be there. And there has to be a quarterly meeting in 3 months, and there has to be interaction between NGOs, how they feel, what they feel, and government officers, they have to evaluate how much they can accept. Thing is that we have to push the system. I strongly feel about maybe SPCA, maybe State Board, maybe AWI, all these statutory bodies, all these bodies are there to provide a platform for the interaction, for having a dialogue. That is missing there. We say, in the morning we were discussing about the dog breeding rules and pet shop rules. We say there has to be state boards. If the state board is there, but we definitely require staff, for full-time staff to address those issues. In most of the states, I think hardly 5 or 6 states have full-time staff. Other states, they don't have. We require a full-time staff in the state boards. We require at least 1 or 2 dedicated people for the district SPCs, so that we get the mechanism and we utilize the mechanism up to the best to have interaction with the government machinery, because that is lacking. That is the reason that CUPA and plenty of NGOs are suffering, and private clinicians like you are suffering with that pressure. Had there been a shelter, Kanji's Gaushala shelter of each urban local body in our country, and as the Anantal High Court has given the verdict that there has to be a Kanji's Gaushala shelter in a cluster of 25 villages in the Jila Panchayat area. That is the mandate of Jila Panchayat. That is the mandate of Panchayat Raj Ministry. Had there been that sort of shelters, pressure would have been quite less on CUPA or practitioners like you. But I strongly feel about we have to push for it. Nobody will ask for it. Nobody will push for it. It is our fraternity, animal welfare fraternity. We have to push for it. That is the challenge for us. I feel like that.
Okay, can we open the house for questions, or do you want to have? Yeah. So
I just wanted one thing. Is
we
there a
can
budget?
open the floor for questions, but please remember that the topic, yes, the topic was celebrating the contribution and role of veterinarians in the animal welfare movement and talking about some of their challenges. Yeah, I think.
Good afternoon. I did my veterinary degree 57 years back. I would like to share with you that veterinary profession is a very challenging profession. A veterinarian is supposed to treat an ant and also an elephant. So you can see the diversity of our patients. He has to develop a sixth sense, to arrive at a correct diagnosis what the animal is suffering from. Human patients are able to tell their ailments. Poor animals can't speak. So it is the veterinarian who has to apply his sixth sense to find out the correct diagnosis. So it is by itself is a very challenging job. But veterinarians are obligated morally, ethically, and professionally to provide, or rather to address the pain and suffering of all animals. Having been trained in the art and science of healing animals, they are also morally bound to provide humane treatment and care to all the animals. Veterinarians are contributing immensely in food security. They are also the backbone of many initiatives of animal welfare, like the Animal Birth Control Program. It is your good veterinarian who can really deliver and make the program a success. In fact, many zoonotic diseases, rabies, bird flu, you can have swine flu, Ebola, Zika virus, all these are emerging zoonotic diseases where a veterinarian has to work with a human doctor to find a solution and control to these emerging zoonotic diseases. So veterinarian has a very wide role to play in the society. And you must really thank the veterinarians who are helping all of us to provide good care to our animals. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman sir. Ex-Chairman sir, General Kharap is always a great inspiration for us, for all the veterinarians across the country. He is the first veterinarian who became chairman of AWVI, and he has been head of Army, renowned veterinary corps, that is the corps of veterinarians. So we are always very much proud of, and we get inspired by General Kharap sir.
Thank you. I had a question for you on the end, that you had raised that I'd like to address to all the panel. So if many of us who are involved with NGOs really lament the turnover of vets that have come through, and I think part of the reason is because they're not really introduced to shelter management as a discipline in veterinary science, and which is an exciting frontier, and it's different than just clinical case by case. There's a lot of balancing. That might be one reason. You had mentioned, I'm sorry, I don't know your name, but that you thought maybe there was not enough interaction between shelter management and vets in their organizations, and that may be true in some cases, but I also think there are some interesting perks that go with government sector positions that maybe you could suggest ways that NGOs could compete with those, either it might be the status of the government service, and maybe it's some tangible financial benefits, but is there other things that, and most of us can't compete with those, but is there other things that you could suggest that NGOs or even private guardians of animals can do to keep vets from just joining government service automatically and making their own NGOs attractive enough to keep them?
That is a great service being provided by NGOs to train the vets, because those are the government officers who are going to serve for whole of their life to the animals. If you have genuinely trained them, they may be serving to plenty of other animals. One thing I like to add on, the inputs of General Sir.
Dr. Saab, her question
Sir.
was that how do we attract veterinarians? Government is a big competition where veterinarians leave NGOs and go and serve in government positions. So how is it that we can make it competitive for veterinarians to join NGOs? That is the question. If you can stick to that, because we have very little time and there are many more questions.
So I don't think the veterinarians are leaving the NGOs to join the government because of only the funds, only the salary. It's more than the salary, because once you're in an NGO, there's a lot of pressure put on you to maybe dismiss the cases as soon as possible, to empty the cages as soon as possible, which is not always the case. The animals also require time to treat. Now, if we discharge the animal before they're completely healed, there's always a possibility that they come back. So the main thing that vets leave the NGOs is because of the pressure put on them on their work, and not because of the salary.
One more thing I will add on his inputs, that there are veterinarians who are making their new NGOs. They served under you, worked under you, learned from you. Now they are making their own NGOs. I have 3 or 4 examples. That we have done in Uttarakhand. The ABC surgery is being done by one NGO, wonderful. But who are the doctors? How many surgeries they did every month? We verify that thing also, so that they get experience certificate. And in the future course of time, after 2 or 3 years, once they feel that now they have learned the job enough, they can have their own NGO and they can take their own contract from government. But nothing wrong about it. I feel veterinarians should come in NGOs also, as Dr. Shiela has come, as Dr. Lakshmi has come, as Dr. Sunil Chawla has come. I very strongly feel that vets should come in NGOs also. They should lead NGOs also. Nothing wrong about it. The veterinarians will be there on administrative side like me. Veterinarians will be there in the urban development. Veterinarians will be there in the forest department. But veterinarians are required in NGOs also. That is the genuine answer, I feel. That is going to be the answer of the need.
I feel the one thing here, I mean, talking from both sides is, I feel veterinarians are given second-hand treatments most of the time in many shelters. Shelter managers do not or will not accept, the veterinarian's perspective. In terms of, say, suppose there's a dog that needs to be euthanized. It's not going to have, for us, for veterinarians, I mean, for everyone, we need to think about the future. I always say, So when you say that, this particular animal needs to be euthanized, there's a whole hue and cry about, you are killing this pet, you are killing this dog, you can save it, I can save it, if you give me a chance, so you are not allowed to kill it. So there's this conflict that happens between, I'd say, ideologies of welfareists and veterinarians. Welfareists forget veterinarians are welfareists also. And many veterinarians do feel threatened or don't feel comfortable in such a situation where they have a non-scientific person dictating terms to them. This I've seen happening in many shelters. And veterinarians also don't feel part of the organization. When they are put in, say the governing board or part of the welfare organization, then they have a sense of value, So that I think is something, because finally money is not everything in the end of the day. And certainly for us veterinarians who have taken veterinary as a profession, and we're not rich people. We don't earn as much as, say, a medical person would earn, because though we work twice as hard or 3 times as hard, study 5 times as much more than them, the human doctors have many more challenges psychologically, physically, everything else. We are exposed to more danger. It's more a passion that we have become vets rather than. So the sense of, belonging or sense of value, somewhere is lacking, I feel. That's something that, if there's an acknowledgement, there's nothing like, nothing better than a thank you. That's something that, everyone would appreciate. The sense of appreciation is what I think is lacking. Of course, the lure of government salary and job and everything else is there. But suppose, you have a permanent job and you have the opportunity to learn, freedom to work and appreciation. That's very important for anyone to stick to a job.
Okay.
That's what I feel.
Thank you. The next question, yeah. Maybe
My-
what we'll do is that, we'll have the question answered by one of you, so that then we can move on to the next question and many more can be asked.
Hi, my name is Riti and I'm from People for Animals, Hyderabad. So this question is for Lakshmi ma'am. Ma'am, I wanted to ask you, how do you balance your role as a private practitioner as well as the founder member of an NGO yourself?
Yeah. Riti, basically, yeah, balancing is pretty simple. For me, my practice earns my money to do my philanthropy. That's how it works. And luckily, I have my service. I have my entire, the hospital, my services, my doctors, everyone. Finally, in the end of the day, I would say by nighttime, it is, see, if an animal doesn't have anyone backing it, of course, we are there to back it, and that's what we're earning our money for. So my services, so it's not, there's no trade-off there. It's, where the person can pay for the pet, that treatment for the pet, maybe I charge them a good fee, and part of that, whatever it is, goes into animal welfare, where an animal who doesn't have anyone to save it, takes it. So that's how it works. Maybe I'm fortunate to do that. I hope that's the thing. It's not balanced at all.
Hello, my name is Joan. I have great respect for vets, and I also consider some veterinarians as gods when they save our dying rescues and bring them back to life. But I have also come across veterinarians. There was one that whichever dog was brought to him or her would say, we have to put the dog down. I've seen a dog that could recover was put down, and then I also have seen another vet who isn't spaying well, and the female dies after some months. So is there any governing authority, somebody who supervises and monitors? Because these two vets then went on to get government jobs, and then you cannot do anything. So I want to know, what are my options? Who can I go to, and what can I do if I come across veterinarians like this?
Dr. Sheela, do you want to take this question? Announcements. One, the certificates of participation are available at the registration counter, so you can collect them from there. Secondly, one more find. There's a Tommy Hilfiger specs which has been found. So if it belongs to anybody, they can claim it. And the third one is that just before lunch, we are going to have a group photograph in the garden, which is just outside the lunch area. So please come there so we can have a group photograph and memory of the IFA 2018. Just let me go through today's schedule. So we're going to start with a presentation by Tobias Lennart, Making Compassion Easier, a pragmatic and inclusive approach to helping animals. He's going to be talking for an hour. After that, we break out into workshops. So the first workshop, parallel workshops, the first one at 12 o'clock. So in the main hall, it will be Enriching Our Shelters on a Shoestring Budget by Steve Govard. The second one in the hall number 1 will be Dr. Chinni and Norma. They'll be taking Introduction to Animal Experimentation, Where We Are and the Way Forward. And the third one, the one which was not done yesterday, by Bhavani Giddu, which is the Print and Press, Creating Persuasive Narratives for Animals to the Media. So that is the first set of workshops. Then we'll have lunch. Before lunch, again a reminder, a group photograph. At 2 o'clock after lunch, the second set of workshops in the main hall, running an on-site first aid program by Tausif Rahman and me. The second one in hall number 1 will be by Varda, Caring for Yourself and Others conflict, compassion, fatigue and self-care. And the third one by Mr. Sanjay Patra, NGO management, the ABC of compliance, finance, registration and governance. Then the third set of workshops would be at 3 o'clock. In this hall, Cezanne would take Pooch Paradise, Understanding Dogs and How That Shapes Our Rescues, Shelters and Adoptions. In hall number 1, Mr. Kamboj and Atul Sareen will be taking on caring for cows, improving facilities for bovines. And in hall number 2, Shweta and Smriti will be starting a vegan advocacy program in your city. And at 4 p.m., we'll have Mr. Karlekar taking a session on media and animals, challenges and opportunities. And at 4:30, it will be the closing ceremony. So it's been an amazing 3 days that is the third day. And I don't know how many, I've been hearing that a lot of people have planes to catch. So, if I don't see you in the afternoon or evening, just a big thank you to all of you for attending. You've been an amazing audience, and I have learned a lot, and I think I'm sure each one of us has met some amazing people that have been doing such wonderful work, either individually or through the organizations that they volunteer or work for. So a big hand of applause to all of us. So I'd like to invite Tobias onto stage. Just a little bit about him. Tobias Lienert is the author of How to Create a Vegan World. He's a long-time speaker, trainer, and strategist. He's also the co-founder
pure rationalist and has delved into the debate of rational versus irrational thought. Thank you for taking a logical and pragmatic approach rather than a more emotionally centric one. However, I kind of see that there might be a bit of philosophical loopholes in what you're saying. It's wonderful, but it seems like it's an idealization. Simply because if humanity has a cyclical need to create a doctrine, so we imagine in our current state that meat eating is this negative thing, and that we slowly, if we can transition to all veganism, more and more so on the spectrum, that we'd have an idealized utopia. But wouldn't that just probably lead to another problem, where veganism itself then would be the problem, and there'd be people like us activating against veganism?
That is entirely possible, and that is why I want to talk about these values, to kind of prevent that. And I could say that even, I talked about these boxes. So you have the vegetarian, the carnistic box, and then the vegetarian or vegan box.
Yeah.
It's perfectly also even possible that you or me, we end up in the pragmatic box.
Absolutely.
That becomes our ideology.
Yes.
So we have to be constantly
Evolving.
aware
Yes.
and open-minded and critical to make sure that we do the best that we can.
I think we also have to be very careful to not make veganism a doctrine, or any, because I think the tendency is once we take a good idea and we start spreading it, the need is for it to become a doctrine or almost a norm. And I think the only way for veganism to survive that is to be constantly evolving in how it's advocated and how it's spread globally.
I would agree. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Tobias, I'm here. Yeah. Hello. Yeah. Thank you. Fantastic approach to making us understand a lot of difficult concepts. I have one theory of divisive veganism that you didn't touch upon in detail. I'd like to get your view on that, which is when somebody who's switched over to a vegan diet and calls himself a vegan is often put down as saying, oh, we can't call him vegan, we must call him a plant-based dietitian or plant-based diet man. Have you encountered a statement like this, and how have you managed that situation?
Yeah, so the idea is that if you're not vegan for moral reasons, you're not really vegan, but